More than 50,000 confirmed infections.
We look into North Carolina, where we are still facing flash flood emergencies.
Residents with power to boil water.
How can we boil water? We don't even have power.
Those tornado sirens went off, just 20 minutes of warning.
Causing injuries and sending groceries and bottles off shelves.
Days of relentless torrential rainfall brought by the remnants of Typhoon Maisk.
Welcome back to Probably Fine. I'm so glad you're here, Internet. I shot the how to start prepping video. It was a long planning video. And this is the second expose of that video. Risk analysis. So, I said that was the first part of the plan, so we'll just make that the next follow-on video. The risk analysis is really the bedrock of just about everything else you're going to do. And you don't really want to start prepping, wasting money, without doing your risk analysis. Risk analysis is not watching TV, not watching Doomsday Preppers or your favorite sitcom and thinking, oh my God, that could happen to me. Let me go buy some stuff. Risk analysis is not watching another channel where some dude's making a go kit with a gas mask and iodine tablets when hazmat and nuclear events probably aren't even in his risk analysis, right? He's just trying to use those old fear tactics to market things for his affiliate marketing link. So, risk analysis is not something that you're going to do by watching other people's content. It's something you're going to have to do yourself. These aren't going to be the same for everybody. They probably won't even be the same for the other members of your family in the same town. It really just depends, because the geography of your area plays a lot into it. And some places in the Midwest especially are very geographically diverse. You could have plains in the north and mountains in the south, and more arid areas to the west and real lush green areas to the east, and that's all in one state. So every household in that state, every piece of property that you own may need its own risk analysis. This is the foundation for the rest of our preparedness program. We don't want to throw money at the wall and see if it sticks. We want to know it's going to stick, and we want to throw it at the correct wall. That's because guessing is expensive, as we know. So just don't guess, or make your best educated guess before you spend that little bit of money that you do have. Risk analysis, really all it is it's just a process of ranking the hazards of your area from the most likely and the most severe to the least likely and the least severe, generally speaking. There's some calculations that I had spoken about, a single calculation that I spoke about in the planning video. We'll revisit that today and kind of show you a little more in depth how to use it. Really, we're just trying to figure out what can you tolerate and accept, okay? Because you're going to have to tolerate and accept some things. You may have to accept the fact that in the southern part of your state, we'll use Missouri as an example, there's the New Madrid Fault. If we get an earthquake and we get refugees, and it's probably going to shut down the interstate bridges going over the Missouri River, and we've got bigger problems than just an earthquake at that point. So I may accept that earthquake as a possibility and try to plan for the secondary and tertiary hazards that come along with it, because I can't do much about an earthquake, unfortunately. We can also use insurance for risk transference. So, that's you might have insurance on the roof of your house for the hail, or you might have fire insurance or flood insurance, depending on where you live. That's all risk transference. We're transferring our risk to the insurance company. Whether or not they pay out is a different story, and that's all kind of beyond the scope of this video and channel. I'm not an insurance guy. All right, so step one of risk analysis. We're going to list all of our natural, our man-made, and our personal hazards. I didn't talk about personal hazards, but they're just as easy and straightforward as it sounds, okay? So your natural and your man-made hazards are probably already identified for you. You should check your local county emergency management website. You can check your local fire departments, your local hospitals, maybe even your local church and nursing homes. They probably have all done some form of this. And some of them may know the exact people to contact to get more detail. Your county emergency manager office, you can call them and they'll probably be able to rattle them off pretty easily. They've probably already done the risk analysis for those, for the county, from their perspective. It might be a little different for your home, depending on where you're located and what hazards are closer to you. But, if you live downstream from that dam over there, you probably got a little more to worry about than the office does, which is downtown, so Start with what they have, but don't make it gospel. I mentioned personal hazards. Those are the things that can affect you personally from day to day that can't be foreseen or classified as like a natural or a man-made hazard. We're not talking about a wildfire or a structure fire here. We're talking about medications running out, you getting injured, car wrecks, deaths, illnesses, etc. So the things that could happen to your family members that nobody wants to think about, or the things that you're dealing with in private that you don't tell anybody about, those are the things that you need to also consider in your planning. Also, get better, bro. I'm praying for you. All right, so we identify all of our hazards, our personal hazards, our natural hazards, and our man-made hazards, and then we're going to give them a score. Last time I spoke about this, I told you the formula was severity times probability equals risk. First try. Well, that's true, but there's a little more nuance. So we need to give probability and severity a numerical value. So we're going to use from 1 to 5 in this example. 1 being improbable or insignificant, okay? And then 5 being frequent or catastrophic. And in between, we'll fill that in as needed. It's not the only way to do it. Those aren't the only numbers you can use. If you want to simplify it, you can do 1 to 3. If you want to make it more granular, you can go 1 to 10. This is just one way to do it, a simple way that you can copy. Okay, from there, we'll just do the simple math. So if my thunderstorms are frequent, they're frequent. They happen almost every week. We'll take that 5, and then we'll multiply it. We'll give it a severity value of, I'll say moderate. And I'll say moderate because I don't remember the last time someone died from a severe storm. They may have died from flooding. They may have died from tornadoes. They may have died from lightning. But severe storm itself may not have caused any death. That knocks it down a point for me from 5 to 4. And then I look at it, how often has it affected my house? How often has it affected my commute to work? How often has it affected my environment and my supply chain around me? Probably really hasn't that I can remember. In recent memory anyways. So thinking back around 5 years or so, just to keep it simple. You can look back longer if you want, but I would knock it off another point. So I'll stay at 3 because they can still be pretty significant, but we also don't want to underplay it either. We want to think worst case. So we'll take 5 times 3, and that's 15. That's my risk factor for severe thunderstorms. So again, those look different for everyone. There's a little bit of nuance and a little bit of context that goes into those, and even some personal opinion and personal experience that may get your numbers slightly different. Have I mentioned that this will be different for everybody? We'll have all of our natural, man-made, and personal hazards scored now. So arrange them from highest to lowest. In this case, the bigger the score, the higher the risk, because that's what our calculation was built for. Different municipalities, police departments or emergency management or hospitals, they may use a completely different algorithm, but they're doing the same thing. Okay, so we're just going to keep this simple. It doesn't need to break your brain. All right, we're all simple creatures. Keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS principle. We scored them. We ranked them from most severe risk to the least severe risk. And then we're going to think of some outstanding factors inside of the home. They don't play into the calculation, but we're going to take these risk factors and look at them, and we're going to add, the unique characteristics of the location we live in. As I mentioned earlier, that dam might affect you differently than it does the emergency management office. Or the guy that lives on the other side of the dam. He might lose his reservoir with his drinking water, but you might be swimming in it. So, your location is going to play a huge part in that. Beyond that, is your house built in a floodplain? Do your roads flood frequently with these thunderstorms that we get? Does the county plow your roads when it's icy? Do you live on gravel? Do your culverts wash out? Do you live in a cul-de-sac with one entrance and egress, right? Do ice storms affect the power grid? Things like that. Speaking of power, we'll go straight into discussing infrastructure. Big thing we're looking at here is the whole redundancy principle. 2 is 1, 1 is none. I want to say that a lot around here. Get used to it. So I've got power. My lights are on right now. Do I have backup power? What method should I use based on my location? I've already identified that I get hail. I've already identified that I get thunderstorms. If I consider solar, will insurance cover, solar panel damage for hail? Because it might cover my roof, but it might not cover my panels. Are panels the best choice? Maybe I should just stick with generator. Is generator the wrong answer? Maybe I should go to wind power. Is wind the right answer? Well, I don't know. That depends on my location. So there's a lot of things to play in here too. Also with generators, do you get just gasoline generators, kerosene, diesel? Do you get all three? I like all three personally, but do what you can afford. That's just power. We also need to have the same conversation about water, the same conversation about gas, if that's an important part of your preps in your house. If you have a well, does your well need electricity to pump the water? Do you have a manual pump backup? The old hand crank pumps. Is that well, plugged into your main grid for your backup power? Do you have backup well pumps? And really, it all goes back to your risks in your area and what you're willing to accept and what you need to prep for. Last, we're going to talk about demographics. Do you have elderly people in the house? Do you have autism or cerebral palsy, somebody you got to push in a wheelchair? Do you have illnesses, medical conditions? Speaking of medical conditions, I went to my doctor the other day, and I was just having, full disclosure here, I was just having some real bad pain with the bottom side, and my doctor said, what's the problem? I said, well, the entrance hurts. The entrance to my butt hurts. And he said, the entrance to your butt. And I said, well, yeah, it hurts. It just right around it just hurts. The doctor looked at me and said, well, it's going to hurt until you quit calling it an entrance, son. So, anyway, what's your income like? Hey, folks, I hate to interrupt the video. I know you're taking notes, but I'd just like to ask you to subscribe, comment, and leave a like. I'm trying to grow this channel. I appreciate the support so far. Every little bit of interaction helps, good, bad, or indifferent. So we talked about the house, the location, the infrastructure, the demographics. Let's move on to the top five risks of your location, of your house, of your plan. We're going to focus on the top 5 first. Not only the top 5, but the top 5 first. We want to allocate those very, very limited resources that we all possess towards the most likely scenarios first. So thunderstorms, tornadoes, earthquakes, civil unrest, depending on where you live. If you're in Minnesota, we'll take those top 5 and we'll prep for them first, and we'll mitigate for them first. Once we feel like we've suitably accomplished that goal of being prepared and mitigated for our top 5 risks, then we can move on to things like, number 6, number 7, number 8. Eventually, we'll get down to number 20 and 30, where home invasion and nukes sit, right? Of course, that depends on where you live. You might live next to a nuclear silo, or you might live next to a nuclear power plant, or the state capital, or the federal capital, and maybe it's a bigger nuke threat there. I don't know, but generally speaking, those nukes aren't probably falling on your house or near them. Let's be real. However, go watch Threads from, I think, 1984, I believe is when it was made. You may not want to survive a nuclear apocalypse anyways, I'm just saying. Go watch that movie, if your stomach can handle it. After we've prepped for our top 5, and we've began to prep for our follow-on risks that we've identified, really we've already got a pretty good foundation for most of the things that our families will encounter in our environment. So, if you're looking to build a bunker, or a go bag, or a bug out vehicle, or buy specific kit like this behind me, or Mountain House food, or buy, I don't know, whatever it is you're creating, you're purchasing for your preps, this is a good foundation to justify those purchases, and the man hours sank into building the chicken coops, and all these things. So you building the foundation for your resilience is really what we're looking at. So in closing, we've discussed all the natural, man-made, and personal hazards that you may encounter in your area. We've scored them. We've put them in order. We've talked about all of our other factors about our home and our environment. Really what we've done today is we've conducted what's called THIRA. In the professional environment, THIRA, the Threat and Hazards Identification Risk Assessment, is pretty standard practice. It's exactly what we did today. It's identifying the risks, weighing the risks, and then figuring out what other factors are related to the risks. I will include links in the description for tools to conduct THIRA. A lot of them are Excel based, almost all of them are. I'm sure you could probably find browser based ones if you felt like it. They are generally designed for like medical establishments and things like that, especially the ones that I've used in the past, but they do the job. The calculations are already built in. A lot of the work's done for you. You just got to list them and score them. And some of them, like I said earlier, some get more complex. It's literally as easy as just using pencil and paper. You don't have to get complex with it, but you know, you do you. There's all kinds of ways to plan. Moving forwards, the next video I'll probably discuss your critical household functions, which are the next part of the planning process, and we really can't talk about those without discussing risk analysis first. And then after that, I'd like to do something a little different and maybe get into doing some get-home bags, 72-hour bags, things like that, which will play into risk analysis here. You don't want to just throw shit in a bag and call it good. You want to be able to throw things in there with a purpose, right? That's pretty much it for me. I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening. Thanks for watching Probably Fine.